JC Tickets provides first-class trips to Ravens road games, including airfare, 4-star hotels, game tickets, and cocktail parties. We also help provide great seating locations to all Ravens home games. JC Tickets, where the games begin. Visit us at jctickets.net.
Ravens Wrap is sponsored by Bud Light, jctickets.net, Geico Insurance, Dunaway Furniture, Ocean City Golf Club, RussellStreetReport.com, Comfort Inn Gold Coast, Holiday Inn Express, the original Green Turtle, hosted by the Blue Ox Bar and Grill.
Welcome back. It is the original Green Turtles Ravens Wrap Show right here on Comcast Beach TV and Delmarva's Rock Radio 93.5 The Beach. Don't forget, Ravens and Bengals, 1 o'clock kickoff, M&T Bank Stadium. The pregame show at 12:30. Our radio show airs every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. during the season and online as well, WZBHRocks.com. Want to go through a couple of things in terms of transactions. John, Asa Jackson completed his 8-game suspension. He's back practicing with the team. He could take Kelechi Osemele's spot on the active roster when they feel that he's ready to do so. He's been training in Arizona and L.A., so we'll see. Kelechi Osemele, as I mentioned, put on IR. He's going to have back surgery, so he is done for the year. A.Q. Shipley, who we picked up, will be playing at left guard once again this week and going forward. So we'll see. Hopefully, he can be effective at the spot. He filled in a little bit in that Miami game, if you remember. Actually, most of the game when Osemele went out of that one. So that was really the big transaction this week so far. Going through the AFC North, by the way, just to let you know how things stand, the Bengals at 6-3 right now, 4-0 at home, 2-3 on the road, 1-1 in the division. Cleveland at 4-5, they're 3-2 at home, 1-3 on the road. Now they're 2-1 in the division with the win against the Ravens. The Ravens at 3-5, 2-1 at home, 1-4 on the road, 1-2 now in the division. And Pittsburgh 2-6, they're 1-2 at home, 1-4 on the road, 1-1 in the division. And we'll start with the Steelers quickly. They lose pretty big to the Patriots, although they did put up some 35 points, but yet another game in which they sustained some injuries. Their linebacker, Sean Spence, a position where they're already very thin at. He got put on IR earlier this week. So they've got their issues. Their offensive line, pitiful this year again. So that season's pretty much done. Cleveland, of course, they defeated the Ravens. Cincinnati, they lost a Thursday night game to Miami. And they lost Geno Atkins with an ACL for the year. That was big among some other defensive losses, which we'll get to. So, last week we were up here. Tom Moore was one of the guests, and he was saying, well, barring a collapse or anything major, I think the Cincinnati Bengals, probably won't collapse. It'll be if the Ravens beat them, if the Ravens were to hit the division. Well, right now, Cincinnati's still looking good at 6-3, but yeah, they've lost some significant players, especially defensively.
Yeah, that team's pretty solid, and, I think they were probably the best team on paper coming out. So, this brings them back to the pack a little bit. But, these teams all know each other. They have a lot of playmakers. Their rookie running back is just kind of a stud and up-and-coming stud. So, if Dalton plays pretty well, they're going to be tough offensively. Their defense was borderline elite in the league this year. So, they fall back a little bit, but they have somebody – a lot of that scheme. So I think the next man up type situation, I think they're going to be okay. The Ravens are just going to have to beat them, and they can beat them, obviously. But they're going to have to play well, guys, and execute to beat that squad.
Rick, the Browns beat the Bengals earlier this year, one of the few losses that they have. And this is a Bengals team that they lost defensive tackle Geno Atkins, as I just mentioned that game, but earlier this year, defensive end Robert Gathers, cornerback Leon Hall, safety Taylor Mays. 3 of those 4 are big contributors. And Rick, playing them 2 years or 2 games each season as well, that is a front 4 that generates a pass rush just among them. They don't have to blitz. They've got guys up front that can get it done.
Yeah, Cincinnati's a tough team, and actually the Browns played a great game when they beat Cincinnati. And really the NFC North, if you really look what can happen here in Cincinnati and Baltimore this weekend, Baltimore wins. Cleveland's got a bye this week. I think they come out of the bye and play Cincinnati. So a lot can happen to change around the standings in the AFC North. And, I don't think anybody's really out of it yet except for Pittsburgh.
What are your thoughts on Cincinnati?
You know, this is a very pivotal game for both teams this weekend. I mean, the Ravens have got to win, and if Cincinnati wins, I think they're off to the races. I really do.
Just taking a look quickly, offensively for the Bengals, passing their 7th, rushing their 19th. And that's one thing with their offensive line, which is pretty good. Over the last couple of years, they just have not established a consistent run game. I know they've got Bernard. He's pretty darn good. We'll talk about him coming up. Defensively, they're 11th against the pass, 10th against the rush, so pretty solid there. Just quickly, they lost to Chicago. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Green Bay. They lost to Cleveland. They beat New England. They beat Buffalo. They beat Detroit, they beat the Jets, and then they lost to Miami on Thursday night, as we talked about. And as of Wednesday doing this show, left tackle Andrew Whitworth didn't practice, and Ray Malaluga, the linebacker, who suffered a concussion against the Dolphins, he did not practice as well.
We need them all just not to show up. Maybe they'll all be injured and we can make excuses for them. No.
Our kids keep them up all night.
That's right.
You know, you look throughout the league, and everybody loses players. You know, that's unfortunate.
Name of the game.
And, you know, I'd rather play any team, I'd rather play when they had all their guys there. I mean, you want to play your best against their best, but it just isn't going to happen all the time. Everybody's going to have injuries. The teams that win are the teams that have the depth to replace those guys. They're the best teams in the league. They're the teams that have the starters, and they're the teams that have guys that are their second string players that could start for other teams. I mean, that's traditionally the type of team that wins. And if you look at the Ravens in the past, they had a lot of guys that were second string guys that could have probably stepped up and played for somebody else. So I don't look at it as injuries. You know, they're unfortunate, but when it comes to playing on Sunday, you got to go out there with the best guys you have, and you got to play your best game. That's what the Ravens have to do this week.
Sound like a coach.
So.
Well, let's start with them offensively, guys, and we'll go down the road. Okay, Andy Dalton is having a good year, completing about 65% of his passes, 16 touchdowns. He is good for at least a pick a game, though. 10 interceptions. Yep. He's been sacked 21 times, so about twice a game. In the backfield, BenJarvus Green-Ellis, he's a between the tackles kind of goal line guy. So really the numbers not that impressive, 3.2 average. Giovanni Bernard, the draft pick out of North Carolina, 4.5 yards per carry. He's got 4 touchdowns. He is basically a Ray Rice circa 2008. This is a very dynamic guy, and we have not, John, covered running backs out of the backfield very well. Ogbonnaya had a pretty good game out of the backfield against the Ravens Sunday, and he almost beat us with a touchdown, a wheel route in Baltimore. But he's a guy that we're definitely going to have to look out for.
This guy is the real deal, and I think the reason the rushing yards are down for Cincinnati is, you know, they kind of share carries, split carries with the law firm and Bernard, and I don't necessarily, I guess they're just trying to work Bernard into the scheme a little more, yeah. And it's time for them just to turn Bernard loose, maybe next week. But he's the real deal. And then you have A.J. Green on the outside. You have Marvin Jones, who's up and coming. He's the guy a couple of weeks ago out of nowhere put up 4 touchdowns. You have Jermaine Gresham as a receiving tight end. You have Mohamed Sanu. You have the rookie tight end, Eifert. Yep. You know, I mean, they are just stacked with a pretty decent offensive line. You have a lot, and Bernard. They have a ton of guys. Dalton has a ton of guys that can catch the ball, and it's just going to put a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on the Ravens defense. This week. So they're going to have to get after the quarterback and create some pressure.
And Dalton will move around a little bit. He won't just sit in the quarterback all the time. Does take some chances, though. He's getting a little bit more maturity, you know, now that he's been in the league for a few years. Mm-hmm. Does get picked once in a while, not as often as he used to. But again, I think that's just maturity. He's becoming a pretty good NFL quarterback.
Buck, when you take a look at 6 weapons that Andy Dalton has to go to and some somewhat capable backs, sounds to me like the game plan is keep the offense off the field if you're the Ravens.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But to do that, Buck, what's Joe going to have to do?
Get more.
Oh! You're going to have to hit people in stride, move the chains.
Oh, I thought that's how he's going to have to throw it at the linebacker.
But that's a great point. I mean, to keep them off the field, we're going to need to execute and convert first downs and make big plays. If we put pressure on the Bengals, maybe get a lead, convert some of these plays, and get them out of a balanced attack, make them more predictable.
But you got to be careful too, because A.J. Green is terrific, and you know, he's the go-to guy, and he can break it. I mean, he can open up that game at any time. I mean, he is a dangerous NFL receiver.
The one stat that sticks out here, going down the list of their receivers, he's got 57 catches, 862 yards already, 5 touchdowns. But he's been targeted 104 times. The next closest, well, 2 guys, their tight end Jermaine Gresham, the wide receiver Mohamed Sanu, at 46.
That's right.
So they more than go out of their way to target him. Right. And hey, anytime you throw up the ball to A.J. Green, it's not a bad play.
No.
Yeah, he's the most targeted receiver in the league. He's one of the elite guys in the league. It's going to be as a big assignment, and there are other guys. We just can't. It's not like we can focus all of our coverage on A.J. Green. No. They have other guys that'll just burn you as well. So
that's what makes them dangerous.
6 weapons there.
Yeah. Well, and taking a look at special teams, nothing dynamic there, but that's something that the Ravens have struggled at times this year in terms of at least coverage. I think kick return and punt return have been pretty good, but Sam Cook's had an off year. We talked about that a little bit. Ms. Marr brought that up, but you know, that's an area too, though, where teams can score. So we can't fall asleep there with that, but it doesn't look like they can do any damage there. But the offense is enough to have to worry about.
Ravens really going to have to. Look, the Dolphins, the Browns. I mean, it's been shown that you can beat this team where you don't need to be Tom Brady or Drew Brees to beat the Bengals. You know, they're a good, solid squad, but the Ravens can beat them. But you're going to have to execute the plays. You're going to need to move the chains. We're going to need to be able to run the ball and have a balanced attack. This can't be Joe Flacco dropping back 45, 50 times. I mean, it's just not going to happen that way. And if we don't get the running game on track, it's going to be along another DVR type game.
If you're going 3 and out, you're in a big problem against the Bengals, because they're going to then put points on the board and wear you down.
And Rick, you brought this up against the Browns playing in Baltimore early in the season, is that when they had a chance to score a touchdown early on, they had to settle for a field goal, and that's 3 points closer to a loss,
Absolutely.
as you said, John. And here's the deal, though. This year at home, the Ravens have not given up any touchdowns in the red zone. So limiting them to field goals is going to be big. And in fact, the Ravens overall are second in red zone defense, despite giving up a couple to the Browns in the red zone. That was an anomaly for them on Sunday. So that's a big stat. And that's what helped the Ravens defense, which wasn't that great last year, was the red zone defense was really good. Guys, about 60 seconds. We'll go around to get the picks. How do you see this going down, Buck?
Ravens.
All right.
I do. I think they're going to turn it around. I think the message is, hopefully the message has been delivered, and you know, somebody's paying attention, and all the things that John said earlier. I hope they were listening to his advice, because it's good advice. You know, getting the ball to the receivers where they can go with the ball and go ahead and score. So, and Ray Rice, you know, we need to work around him. So, but I'm optimistic. I really am.
About 25 seconds, guys.
I'm going with the Ravens. I mean, this is a must-win game. The fans are going to be in this game. They're going to have to do it. They can't let it be a very high-scoring game. If it is, then Cincinnati will win the ball game. 23-17 Baltimore. I mean, I'm looking. They have to win this game.
I'm going with the Bengals. I think the Bengals are too balanced. I'm going 27-17.
Yeah, boy, I hate to say it, but until they can show me they can run the ball and stop the passing attack, I got to go with the Bengals as well. So, wow. What did you think? Our guests go with the Ravens. We know. Guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you being on.
Thank you,
it's
guys.
the Ravens Drive Show, Comcast Beach TV, and Del Mar's Rock Radio, 93.5 The Beach.
What's this all about?
We're giving Rich the NFL experience of a goal line dive.
Really?
There's an easier way to get an ultimate NFL fan experience. Just snap the tag wherever Bud Light is sold and you can win. Bud Light in the NFL. Here we go.
Can I make it?
On the internet, yes. Into the end zone, no.
JC Tickets provides first-class trips to Ravens road games, including airfare, 4-star hotels, game tickets, and cocktail parties. We also help provide great seating locations to all Ravens home games. JC Tickets, where the games begin. Visit us at jctickets.net.